Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sociology Analytica. This is Pooja Prasanna, your sociology faculty. And today onwards, I'll be taking Max Weber. And if you had observed the question, it's not just Weber's question, there is Durkheim in it, and there is also a bit of other chapter also in it. See, why I'm doing this? Because I want you to understand the fact that UPSC is going for this pattern. Okay, UPSC is going with this pattern. They're combining two different thinkers, they're combining two different chapters. So in this particular question, I have actually combined three different chapters or three different topics. Okay, and before even going to this question, I want to actually talk about few things that I was reading the comment section. I was reading the answers of many of your many of the questions. See, a lot of you actually have problem, a lot of you are asking about which material to study. Okay, and a lot of you were asking about whether will I continue with this series. Yes, I'll be continuing with this series. Like whatever the timetable it has been given, accordingly only I'll be following with that. Okay, and secondly, coming to the book list. See, book list is very simple. You have to study IGNOU material. You have to study Horolombus for paper 1, IGNOU material for paper 1, and a bit of Ritzer for paper 1, that is paper 1 thinkers. In order to, if you want to do it very in detail, then you have to go with Ritzer. You will be finding thinkers in IGNOU material also, and for subsequently the rest of the chapters, that is stratification onwards, you'll be finding in Horolombus. Okay, Horolombus and Holborn. So either you can buy a blue book, blue cover, or you can also buy a orange color also. And many of you might do ask, ma'am, should we do Nitin Sangwan? See, Nitin Sangwan is very less. Okay, it's not so sufficient in order to get a good marks. Okay, I'll tell you, I'll be very honest about this. It is a good book, no doubt about it. But then if you have studied once or two times, then you will understand it, then you know how to write it. But if you're a first timer, then it is not so good book for a first timer. Okay, so just keep this in mind. And yeah, I do check most of the answers. The answers are actually, most of you are putting extraordinary effort. I'm very glad that most of you are actually writing on a day-to-day basis. Keep this work, continue with this. I'm pretty sure, already you have reached that point where you're writing a very good answer. So, by the end of the series, I'm pretty sure, you would be, excelling in this answer writing for sure. Okay. So now coming back to the question. So out of Karl Marx, Weber, not Karl Marx, out of Max Weber and Durkheim. Okay, see, I'm asking two topics here. Out of Weber and Durkheim, whose approach is more fruitful for the development of sociology of science? So what I'm doing, I'm bringing Durkheim, though this chapter was based on what? Weber. That's what I know according to the syllabus. But I'm bringing Durkheim. I'm also bringing what? I'm also bringing sociology as science, which is in the second chapter. Okay, so this is how UPSC is also asking. Too many different content, too many different, wherever it is there, so they'll bring and they'll put it here. Okay, so it's the question is very simple. The question is, out of Marx and Weber, who do you think is better in the development of sociology as science? So what you can do is, and it's a 20 marker question, so that means 250 words you have to write. So here what you can start your definition, or you can start your introduction as what is sociology as science, that is how to study sociology as science, or what should be there for sociology as science. So you can just simply write about being objectivity, systematic study of investigation and evaluation. Okay, that is empirical evidence and interpretation. See, these things I'm not going in detail because we have already done this. Okay, there was also a question on this. Sociology as science was also a question which we discussed also under positivism, right? So you can simply write how sociology is science. Okay, and then what you can do is, so this is an introductory para, and then you can move on to either Durkheim or Weber. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start with Durkheim, because if you compare the timeline of Durkheim and Weber, Durkheim came first, and he actually emphasized on studying sociology as science. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take first Durkheim, and then I'll go with the Weber's concept. So Durkheim, first of all, he actually told that, we should study, that is sociologists should study from the positivistic perspective. And when he studies from the positivism is nothing but using of natural science, that is, studying society from the scientific perspective itself is positivism. So this point you can drop, and then you can also drop wherever you can elaborate positivism, that is Durkheim's positivism itself, or you can also drop in a generalized point also. Anyhow you want to take, you can take the approach. So what you can do is, you can drop all the points where Durkheim has used scientific methods, or he has emphasized on studying sociology from the scientific method. So here, first and foremost, I've taken is social facts. See, social facts, what he says, social facts should be observed or visualized as a objective reality, and objective reality is one of the characteristic of science or studying sociology as science. So this is the first point. The second point I have taken is classification. Okay, so what Durkheim believes, classification is also one characteristic of science, and Durkheim has also told that the social world can be classified. Okay, social world itself can be classified, and for this you can give example of suicide. That is, he classifies suicide into 4 different types. He classifies division of labor also, that is mechanical, that is solidarity, mechanical solidarity, organic solidarity. So Durkheim always goes for classification of the social world, that you can write. The second thing is causation and relation, which is also a scientific method. That is, Durkheim uses causation theory in order to understand the cause-effect relationship of a particular social fact, and then also he'll try to understand the relation, correlation between two variables. So this you can, this classically he actually do the causation and correlation in his study of suicide. Okay, so that is, he'll try to understand the causation between two variables. That is, see, that is suicide rate, and let's say, a bachelor men, or being a Catholic men or Protestant men, okay, etc., etc. So what he'll do, so he'll try to find a causation between two variables, and also he'll try to find the correlation between two variables also. So for this particular point, you can give example from his study of suicide. Then further, he'll also go with a multivariate analysis. What is multivariate or concomitant analysis? So both the things, so when we studied suicide, there also, we have studied, right, he has used concomitant. That is, again, changes in one variable will lead to the changes in the other variable. Okay, so changes in one social variable, for example, change in the like a being bachelor to being married, that changes the rate of suicide rate altogether. So if you are a bachelor man, so you tend to commit suicide more. But if you change this variable, if you become a married man, then your suicide rate will actually come down. Okay, so this is nothing but concomitant relationship. Next, he also talks about multivariate analysis, again, which is a scientific method. So multiple variables will be there. You keep one variable as constant, and then you will vary other variables. You'll try to vary the other two variables. So where does he use this? He again use this multivariate analysis in his study of suicide. Okay, so all this you can use this, and see, when you give the data, when you give this words, also give one example. Just in front of this, just write an example. You can actually directly take from suicide theory itself, because Durkheim's suicide is one of the classical example of a scientific experimentation in society. Okay, next, he also uses statistical analysis. What is statistical analysis? So basically, you can classify the world, whatever the social world be there, you can classify that, and then you can make a statistical data of it. So same thing, where does he take the data from? Police record, which is again a statistical data. Okay, and then finally, Durkheim believed in formulation of theory, that is the social world. After experimenting the social world, after classifying a social world, after interpreting the social world, Durkheim believes that the social world can also be formulated. Okay, the social facts can be formulated. So again, so if you see most of the theories, what he formulates at the end of the suicide theory, that is after studying suicide, that suicide is actually a social fact. Suicide is a social fact. So there is suicidogenic forces which actually makes a person to commit suicide. So suicide is absolutely a social fact and not a psychological fact. And so like this, so you study or when he studies religion, what does he say? Religion is a byproduct of society. It is an autonomous unit of society. Okay, so man creates society. So man creates religion because he won't be able to pray the society at large. So religion is a autonomous entity in the society which has been created by man himself. So like this, for every whatever he studies, at the end of the day, he actually gives a formulation of that particular theory. Okay, so this is about Durkheim using scientific methods. Next we can go to Weber, how Weber has used scientific method. So in few things he has used scientific method. First and foremost thing is objectivity and value freedom. See, Durkheim also emphasized on objectivity. Durkheim also emphasized on value objectivity, but then Durkheim did not emphasize on value freedom. So what he says that society has to be studied from social fact per se. Okay, we cannot study from any other way. It has to be studied from social fact. And when you study this, there is no place for internal meaning. There is no point for internal meaning. We should not take into consideration. But then Weber says, no, we cannot do that. We should actually go for value freedom. Why we should go for value? Durkheim talks about facts, but then Weber emphasizes too much on values. What he says, see, facts will be facts, but then Every human being, whatever the action he will take or whatever the decision he will take, for example, which politician to believe, whether should we believe in God or not, or how should we study, or whom should we trust, all these things are what? All these things are based on their value system. Their value can come from their culture, history, okay, societal background, many factors will be there, and because of that they will have a certain value. And what Weber says that it is impossible to actually study all this value from one perspective. So every value has to be studied from its own perspective. That is, we need to tackle different fact with different social action differently. We need to understand what the internal meaning. Okay, Weber emphasizes on the understanding of the internal meaning of a social action. So Weber give importance to social action, whereas Durkheim give importance to social fact. I am pretty sure you know by now about all these things. So in these two things you can emphasize and you can write, just elaborate whatever it is and then write it in 2-3 statements, and then you can go with causal pluralistic method. What is causal pluralistic method? So Durkheim believed in monocausal, or even Karl Marx also believed in monocausal. So for example, for capitalism to exist, there is only one reason, there is only one cause why capitalism exists, and that is the material structure. Okay, because of the material structure or the economical structure, it leads to the capitalistic society or whatever the society is. So basically he says whosoever will be controlling, what Karl Marx says, whosoever will be controlling the mode of production, okay, whosoever will be controlling the mode of production. So based on that, the class will be divided into capitalist class and then the working class. So this is actually that is causal, monocausal explanation. He is only explaining from the economic per se. But then Weber goes for causal pluralistic method. Causal pluralistic method, that is, for any action, for anything to happen, any effect to happen, there might be multiple cause, there might be more than one cause, which is again a scientific method, okay, which is again a scientific method, because most of the natural science actually goes for both monocausal as well as pluralistic causal method also. Okay, so for this you can give example of his Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism. So what he says, for a capitalism to evolve, there is not just one cause, there is multiple causes, okay. And then his to study Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism, he actually studies from what type? He actually studies from ideal type, and ideal type is a specific type. It's a scientific method, okay. It's a scientific method wherein to study sociology, okay, specifically designed to study society at large, okay. So it has certain aspects of certain aspect which is very similar to science, okay. So in order to study Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism, he'll be using ideal type. Which ideal type he'll be using? He'll be using ideal type of capitalism and ideal type of Protestant ethics. Okay, so this you can drop it in your answer. And then finally he'll also use one more scientific method, and that is comparative methods. Most of the natural science uses comparative method in order to compare and bring the interpretation. Even Weber also is using comparative method. Why he is using? Because in order to find the causal relationship. So where does he use comparative method? He uses comparative method again in his Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism. He'll compare a capitalistic spirit with respect to other different religion. I mean, he'll compare with Hinduism, Islam, Jainism, etc., etc. Okay, so that again you can write in 1 or 2 statements. Fine. So this should be your body part. That is, write all the things which is done by Durkheim and then write the things which is done by Weber. And then how will you conclude? See, conclusion is totally based on you. However you want to conclude, you can conclude. That is, do you think, do you personally think who is better? If you think Durkheim is better, you can actually take a stand, Durkheim is better. If you want to think Weber is better, you can still take a stand. But what I would suggest you is, instead of taking stand, actually you can go for a neutral perspective. You can actually say that yes, see, both of their approach of making sociology as science was different. Though their approach was different, though they studied, the methodologies which was used by them is different, but then substantially they have contributed in bringing the theories and giving formulations for the development of sociology. Okay, something like this in a neutral term, in a neutral way you can end the conclusion. Okay, this is my personal suggestion. Always end the conclusion in a neutral way. Fine. This ends with this question. In case if you have any doubt, you can just drop your queries in the comment section. For sure I'll be checking your comments. Okay, I'll see you all tomorrow continuing with Weber. Thank you.